1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 1, 4. Okay. Here we are. Here we are, everybody. Good to see everybody. Hey, let's mind your things, huh? Hey, welcome everybody. Yes, we will. Yes, we'll record that. Yeah, and we'll put it on online. And you're recording this one. Is this one on right now? Is it? Okay. We can let it. We'll turn it on about 2 seconds. Yeah. And you can come on internet. We'll put it live on the internet too. So you can do that if you want to. Mr. Ma was laying the energy on this morning. Somebody went out. A lot of energy. He's been here 15 years now, Mr. Ma. 15 years. Yeah, it was before Yen Shin came in 1998. It's really great. So here we are. Wrong thing. Hey. So let's just focus in just for 2 seconds. And I know Marilyn and Skip. Ron and Steve and Juliet. So we'll extend to each other. And then we'll extend to the people who are friends of the internet. So we'll extend to our ancestors. Take your time. Extend to our ancestors. Extend to all the great teachers we had the fortune of meeting, huh? We're going to extend to the traditions we participate in. Extend to the whole thing. And we're going to extend to those people who aren't feeling well on the internet today. There's Bodhigaya, the person who brought Buddhism, Zen actually, to China. I would say there's a transmission beyond words and language, words and letters, that doesn't belong to any tradition. It's the very nature of human awareness, which is the Buddha, you know? That's why the practice of extension is really good. First, it embodies us. We can turn the music off. It embodies us. And through that transmission and extension, the light intensifies. And just a few quotes from that text. The Refinement of Perception by Dujun Lingpa, who later became Dujun Rinpoche. Just a few quotes from one of his book. All universes are encompassed within a single space, and all sensory experiences are encompassed within the single nature of the awareness field. The nature of awareness as Buddha nature is openness. The ground aspect of Dharmakaya is free of everything related to origination, location, object, or creator. So it's free of limitation. It is beyond there being any time in which it ceases, does not have any substance, and is free of the limitations. It's free of limitations of all thingness. It is free of being absolute non-existence. It is free of ongoing. All phenomena manifest distinctly and individually within the expanse of this ground of being. It has no conceptual aberration in its openness. The spaciousness is pervasive and extensive. What is the path? It is simply holding to one's place in the immediacy of one's own situation. What's realization? It is simply understanding or experiencing one's own nature as the way of abiding. So it says, stabilize your understanding of awareness. Later on he says, what's awareness? Awareness illuminates the nature of your karma. It illuminates the nature of phenomena. So with that, we're going to hold on. Good to see everybody. Welcome everybody. We'll extend to each other again. We'll record this now. Glad everybody here. So one of the things we've been exploring is our own awareness of awareness, which we always do, and that this awareness has many different languages, right? There's no one way of saying this stuff. But as you and I learn to suspend our mind, and we free awareness from the mind, we focus awareness within awareness itself. Awareness, becoming aware of awareness itself. And when this happens, we learn to hold awareness, and we're all getting beyond that. We enter awareness, we do that, and now we're becoming awareness. That's what's taking place. And then as we become this awareness, this inner awareness reveals itself or shows itself, or we experience it as the beingness of our own being. That here is a being, I'm a being, and there's the beingness of our own being. Very straightforward. And what's amazing, the beingness of my being and the beingness of your being is the beingness of being itself. This is why there's a very short path. It is very, very simple. It is so simple, could not be simpler. After everything is said and done, it is completely simple. Become aware of your awareness, which is the beingness of your own being, of your own being, which is the beingness of being itself. That's it. So awareness and the beingness of being are in oneness. Just like in the Hindu tradition it says Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, Chit Ananda. Existence or beingness is consciousness, is Ananda. Bliss. Same story. So as you and I enter awareness just like we are right now, we then become the beingness of our own being. The same oneness. Then we stay in that state as we live our life. In awareness, we can actually experience the difference between a being and the beingness of being. Just even right now, you can feel that there's a being, and then there's the beingness of being that permeates all the beings. It is a really useful distinction to make. There's a being, and there's the beingness of being that's coming through her right now, coming through me. A being is something, and it's not nothing. Actually, I am something. And not just nothing. I'm a temporary something, that's for sure. Getting shorter and shorter, too. But this is something. Fingers, ears, nose, teeth. Even inside there's something, But the bigness of being is not something. That's why it's a little mysterious, ineffable. It's not something, and yet it's not nothing. It is not just nothingness. The beingness of being can manifest in a being. It manifests in infinite beings. And the beingness of being actually manifests the world in which a being manifests. So you and I actually come in through the world. We can actually come into the world. We're in the world, of the world. We are the world. One big being world, you know? It's a being. And we're little beings in that being. But it's not the same thing as the beingness of being which manifests the world. You guys follow this? And the beingness of being manifests the life of a being. So my very life at this moment and your very life at this moment is the manifestation of the beingness of being. It's manifesting the life. That's why it is the life force. You know? And it manifests the experiences of being. This is really important. You know, you don't have to wipe out every experience, but it actually manifests the experience of the being. So the manifesting of my experience is the manifestation of the beingness of being. And the manifesting of your experience is the manifestation of the beingness of being. That's why it's very incarnational. Right? Or, our universe is encompassed within a single space, and all sensory experiences are encompassed within the single nature of the awareness field. So your very experience is path. So it manifests the experiences of the being, and when the beingness of being withdraws, the being disappears. When the beingness of being withdraws, the being disappears. What remains is the beingness of being of that being. There is the beingness of being, but actually what remains is the beingness of being of that being. There's like traces. With me? And eventually the traces will dissolve as that person becomes completely the beingness of being, which we already are. So what remains is the beingness of being. And the qualities, spaciousness, openness, light, compassion, primordial awareness remains. What actually remains is bodhicitta. Things disappear and the bodhicitta meets the bodhicitta. I know we know this, but we're going through this again because it'll help us understand karma. A being, you, me, can realize the beingness of our own being. We can realize the beingness of our own being. And doing so, as you and I realize the beingness of our being, you might be feeling it as you're realizing more and more the beingness of your own being. You feel more authentic, you feel more liberated, you actually feel more complete. You know, you still have lots of problems, you may still be nuts, but you feel more complete, and you feel liberated and authentic. And realizing the beingness of your own being is realization. That's it. A being, by becoming what it is, ahama, that by becoming the beingness of being, one becomes the beingness of being itself. It's not far away. There's only one beingness of being. There's only one beingness of being. In the coming of going of beings, the appearance and disappearance of beings, which we really are well aware of, right? The appearance and disappearance of beings. There's only one beingness of being. And what always remains is the beingness of being. That's why there's a very thin veil between life and death. It's so thin. Not even paper thin, less. Same beingness of being. Same beingness of being. Same, really, if you can feel that, you're really getting free. To experience in the beingness of being, to experience the beingness of being is to experience oneness with all beings. Since all beings are manifestations of the beingness of being, and we all know that, huh? There's truly only one beingness of being. And the beingness of being, those qualities are the same as awareness. Spaciousness, lucidity, purity, oneness, pure love, and bodhicitta, which is the unbound affection, we'll call it cosmic affection. It's not just gentle Ben, Old Yeller, or Lassie. It's not just loving kindness. It is quite vast in that. It has no prejudices. You guys follow this? Anyway. The beingness of being is multidimensional. Just as the nature of awareness is multidimensional. This is important. If you can feel the multidimensional, it really helps hold the whole thing can click. And you're not in a lot of unnecessary confusion. The ground of the beingness of being is pure being, the Dharmakaya. Just pure openness, potential, pure being. And this pure being is not an entity. It's not an entity, and it's not a being. The pure beingness is not a being. And it's not a big being. The biggest of beings. The beingness of being gives itself to beings and shines through beings. The beingness of being is sublime knowingness, vast, pure, creative knowingness, consciousness. The beingness of being is the Buddha nature. The beingness of your being, the beingness of my being, and the beingness of being is Shiva. There's not an ounce of difference. And the beingness of being of the beloved, of the Sufi, like an outer being. And the Christos, the luminous light, huh? As they say, the light of God, right? In the flesh. That's the Dharmakaya. Sambhogakaya, dimension of the beingness of being, is the manifestation. Dharmakaya is unmanifest. Sambhogakaya is manifestation of light, lucidity, energy, vortexes. I think that man today was hit by a vortex. It manifests the powers and the qualities of the surging, Longchenpa's word, the surging awareness. Hey, unbound, radiant luminosity. And this pre-reflective dimension, I mean, it's hard to be thought, can't really handle it with words, but it's called the archetypical dimension, the dimension of the deities, devas, dakinis. Huh? And it's also, this is where the beingness of being manifests itself apparitionally. Visions. It really is the visionary dimension. The deities and devas and dakinis, whatever language you want to use for those manifestations of the powers and qualities. There are actually no entities in the beingness of being manifesting the apparitions. These apparitions are displays or configurations of the field of beingness. Huh? So Avalokiteshvara is not actually an entity, but it's the manifestation of the beingness of being. And out of true kindness, depending on, it is a gift to you to have that experience. It is another. And it's out of that, it's in all of us, and actually out of that manifests Nirmanakaya, the flesh. So all this stuff is in us as us. I know I've said it 1 billion times. So now we're going to Nirmanakaya. The beingness of being is a field, infinite horizons, pervasive and extensive. Pervasive and extensive. We extend our perception and have it become extensive in us also, right? The field is not a thing. So we feel that the beingness of being is a field. And this field is not a thing. So when you and I feel the field, it's not a thing, right? And does not exist as a thing, or the field does manifest things and entities. So look at all the little entities in this room, all the little beings, and they're all being manifested by the field here and now. And we can extend and all that stuff. And this is Nirmanakaya. And Nirmanakaya, there's the manifestation of appearances. So this is more appearances than just sensuous, hard, soft, flesh, smells. Somebody smells good in here. Smells, taste, pleasure, pain, the whole range of experience. Nirmanakaya. Love, hate, Nirmanakaya. Love-filled hate, hate-filled loved, Nirmanakaya. It's the dimension of the flesh. I love the word flesh. It is the dimension of the flesh. The earth. The human is Nirmanakaya. And the human person is a thing and not a thing. This is us. I'm a thing. And I'm not a thing. You're a thing, and you're not a thing. Some people may think you're just a thing. This is true. The very personhood, the very subjectivity of the person is the opening of the beingness of being itself. Isn't that amazing? The very subjectivity of each person here and on the internet. For us, subjectivity is not a naughty word. It is the very openings of the beingness of being in a being. Isn't that wonderful? You got that? Isn't that wonderful and amazing? The very openness, the subjectivity of Karen, the who is an opening of the beingness of being itself. That's why I like to think of human beings as places. I really do. I think of human beings as places. The opening of the beingness of being in a being, in a person. Human beings are places, or openings. All these little openings. And when the opening doesn't feel opened, we're locked in our mind. And that's not necessarily a lot of fun, even if you've got a good one. As a singular entity, or singular being, and there are singular entities, singular beings, the beingness of being manifests as presence. So all the little beings have presence, and that is how being manifests itself, or as presence. Even cups have presences, bells have presences, toes have presences. Person is presence, presence within presence. Baltimore is a chunk of presence, you know? The beingness of being manifests as appearances, sensuous appearances. So if you try and, hate sensuous appearances, want to kill all sensuous appearances, you will find a loss of the beingness of being, the experiencing the beingness of being. Huh? And it'll distort your view. Okay? Highly prejudiced person here. Sensuous presence within the context of what? Gnosis. All these sensuous presences within the context of gnosis. What does that mean? That means knowingness permeates the three dimensions of the beingness of being. Knowingness is Dharmakaya. Knowingness is Sambhogakaya. Vortex is light. Dakinis. And knowingness is moi. In me. In you. Just as I am. Just as I am and just as you are. The beingness of being is bodhicitta, pure love, beyond prejudice, beyond opinions. It is, and a human being can feel and experience the beingness of being its own self, and the human being has a mind, but it's not simply a mind. And the human being is a being who can dissolve itself into the beingness of being, right? That's amazing. The human being is a being that can dissolve itself into the beingness of being. That's what yogis do. They come to a point and they dissolve themselves into the beingness of being. And the bodhicitta, pure love, beyond prejudice. We'll get back to this in a few minutes because the bodhicitta has no opinions, the bodhicitta has no prejudice, and it has no polarities. I mean, it does not have discrimination. In fact, some of the texts speak about it as the non-discriminatory knowingness is the bodhicitta. I like that. Who's the guy with the bad arm at Auschwitz, the doctor? Who? Mango. Right, left, this way, that. That's not the bodhicitta. You know? That's not bodhicitta. Doesn't make those distinctions. With me? Of course, you have to kind of deconstruct a lot of systems with that one. We'll come back to that in a few moments. What is most wonderful, this is for all of us, is that by feeling the beingness of being in another being, which is very natural, The beingness of being can be felt in oneself. That's what happens to all people all the time. You need a little talk like this. But by feeling the beingness of being in another being, being can be felt in oneself. And that's love, right? Which also, by feeling the beingness of being in oneself, the beingness of being can be felt in the other. That really is a great circle, right? If you can feel it in yourself, you can feel it in another. And if you can feel it in another, you can feel it in yourself. This is why, whether we like it or not, human beings are the path of realization. The beingness of being is the doorway into oneness. And the oneness is the beingness of being manifesting between two beings. The oneness is the beingness of being manifesting between two beings, 5 beings, infinite beings, beings of the past, beings of the present, and beings of the future. That is the oneness of the beingness of being. Beings, 2 beings, 20 beings, beings of the past, beings of the present, and beings even in the future. The beingness of being is ultimately timeless awareness. It's the 4th time, and it manifests in time. It is timeless awareness manifesting in time. That is the beingness of your own being. And you, right at this moment, you're a multidimensional person, and part of you is in time. Part of you is in time. Timeless awareness is manifesting in time. It's actually holding time. It's holding time. Holding karma. Illuminating karma. The beingness of being is knowingness, is gnosis, is pure perception, direct perception. Yes, it is direct, just like extension is direct also. Unmediated, very direct. Extension is completely direct. This beingness of being can be directly experienced by human beings through focusing within themselves. And a human being can establish themselves in the beingness of their own being. I know I said this before. And the beingness of being is manifesting through them into others. We actually manifest the beingness of being into others. And if they feel it, they start feeling the beingness of being their own self. That is a transmission beyond words and letters. Doesn't belong to any tradition. It is the very essence of human nature, which is the Buddha. Buddha Gaya said that. Who some say was also Pandape Sanjay, the line of the siddhas. And he took another line. No, I don't know if this is true or not. He has to live an awful long time. And a fast traveler. Now, and the beingness of being is manifesting through them into others. And this is the transmission of radiance, or into-givenness. So in one way, everything is into-givenness. Everything is into-givenness. Everything is manifesting in into-givenness. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. The beingness of being is profound givenness. Some people use the word grace, but it has so many connotations. I'd like to jump over that one. The beingness of being is profound givenness. It is the primordial gift to everyone and everything. Everyone and everything you see is that gift. The beingness of being cannot be won by virtue. Neither can be lost by badness. Phew. The beingness is being is beyond. This is really important to cut into this and really understand it, feel it as your own, not believe it. Gee. The beingness of being is beyond good and evil. It's beyond right and wrong. It's beyond truth and falsity. It's beyond better and best. It is beyond pleasure and pain. It is beyond sweetness and suffering. And that's the injunction of the great siddhas. Every siddha tradition, they come to that point. What? The beingness of being is beyond all polarities. So each one, this is a Dujam Lingpa's statement I'm making right now. So each one must confront the flaw of benefit and harm each one of us must confront the flaw of benefit and harm, on virtue and evilness. Liberation, natural liberation, takes place by experiencing all phenomena as karma, experiencing everything within the field of awareness, and to experience everything, all phenomena, all events, as karma, as the manifestation of the beingness of being, my being. That's the path we began with. All karma takes place within the beingness of being. All karma takes place within the beingness of being. And as soon as I can feel and experience my karma taking place within the beingness of being, I am liberated at that moment. All karma is the manifestation of the beingness of being. And that's why being in awareness illuminates that truth. It illuminates that. Phenomena becomes naked. You can believe it all you want. Just one more belief. Chalk it up. One more. Manifesting phenomena as appearance, as experience, as events, as dramatic surges of luminous energy unfolding relentlessly. You notice how relentless the unfolding is? Have you noticed that? Relentless unfolding. Liberation by view is what yogis call liberation by view, or natural liberation. One sees through or feels into phenomena as the beingness of being manifesting. Experiences all phenomena as the beingness of being, not as a belief, but as direct experience. Practice, we can do this. Natural liberation is the experience of everything just as it is. Everything is liberated through experiencing everything within the field of awareness, the field of the beingness of being. You're just lining it up as it is. Karma is the unfolding of life within concealment and unconcealment. Unfortunately or fortunately, karma is the unfolding of life within the concealment and unconcealment of the beingness of being. The beingness of being, for some reason, likes to play peekaboo. So you get glimpses and disappears. Glimpses, it appears, it opens and closes. You see it as it is, and then it disappears. And slowly but sure it becomes sustained. The concealment, unconcealment is completely natural. It's not as because you're a dum-dum or you ate an apple. Okay? It's the very nature of beingness and being to reveal itself and conceal itself. The beingness of being manifests everything in every experience, both within you and outside of you. It is the situations. It is not just you. It is the situations. It is the situations. Your life is the unfolding of karma. Your karma is the direct path of realization. My karma is the direct path of realization, just as it is. The karmic world and your karmic experience in its manifestation echoes the concealment and unconcealment of the beingness of being, which is light. The natural. And the natural Nirmanakaya experience of all this stuff, as it becomes all this stuff, there's a natural concealment that takes place. But as you and I live in awareness, and you haven't lived in awareness a long time, as a little kid growing up, makes it much easier. It is unconcealed, it is open, and you actually feel the phenomena as the beingness of being. Just like you feel chi initially, and it's dense, then the chi becomes thinner, then the chi becomes light, then the chi becomes just knowingness. That is the manifestation of the beingness of being. Say yes if we're all following this. So your life is the unfolding of karma. Your karma is the direct path of realization, just as it is. The karmic world and your karmic experience in its manifestation echoes concealment and unconcealment of the beingness of being, which is radiant light. So to be in the awareness state, or be in the awareness field, is to be and experience the beingness of being in all experience and in all beings and in all actions of this world. That's why the bliss of samadhi is the bliss of the world. The field, awareness, illuminates all experience as the beingness of being. It's the whole story. Awareness illuminates experience as the beingness of being itself. Experiencing the beingness of being as one's own experience, and as the unfolding of the experience, unfolding of this experience in me, is realization in the here and now, just as I am. The manifestation of the beingness as being as your being and as your life, as your karma, does not depend on simplistic notions of causality, such that your life simply reflects a past action. Or for every action there's a reaction, okay? She hit me in a past life. I just made up for it, okay? It came back at her, okay? This sounds nice if you're a ping pong ball or a billiard ball or even apple falling from a tree. Yet as we know, no longer we think Newtonian like Newton, or even causality as Aristotle thought. But we know causality is multidimensional complexity, infinite multidependency, even any action, right? Think of the manifestation of the quantum field, manifesting in such diverse dimensions and such unpredictable ways. Huh? Where will the points show up? Right? You understand? So causality is no longer the causality as we used to understand it, right? Infinite. Perhaps the net of Indra, and also in Buddhist thinking, it also elaborated from the early teachings, Hinayana teachings, of a simplistic form of causality to much more than net of Indra, where this entire universe is just light echoing. Chan Buddhists also became very much more sophisticated in terms of causality and did not think of karma in that simplistic way. Huh? Karma is ineffable. Ineffable means not quite knowable. It is ineffable. The juridical frame of karma is not the mysterious and wonderful unfolding of the karmic realization of what is as it is. Juridical understanding of karma is not the karmic understanding of direct perception. It is not the karmic understanding of the divine mystic life. Huh? Juridical means your honor, guilty. Your honor, not guilty. It's manifested as Santa Claus, actually. How the Santa Claus song goes? Someone knows Santa Claus. How does Santa Claus? Say it again, please. He knows who's good and bad. Continue. So be good for goodness sake. You better not. He comes to everybody. Yes. Or it's also called St. Peter. Okay? St. Peter's another form of the judgment. And you come up in there, St. Peter. Okay? And I actually think of Dr. So-and-so in this moment. Because I actually was studying this at the same time. I was studying at one time the life where the Nazis were really different than regular people. I would think, oh, that's a Nazi. But actually, there's a lot of studies that show they were just a bunch of regular people doing horrible things like regular people do. You with me? It's not their little tattoos, you know. And I was also studying, some stuff in philosophy, theology about the Last Judgment. You with me? And here's a little train stop, and people get off the trains, and there's Dr. Mengele. Right, left, right, left, right. And you hear that repeated through judgment over and over again in certain forms of the act of judgment. Right, left, as Santa Claus, as papal enunciants, you with me? As you hear the same story, Oh, you didn't feed the poor people. That was really me. So there's a certain form of legal judgmentalness. You with me? That we carry on, and human beings it's kind of divine Skinnerianism. Divine Skinner. Holy Mengel. Holy Mengel. And unfortunately, the great compassion, the bodhicitta, has no understanding of this sort of thing whatsoever. The bodhicitta is beyond juridical formatting of life. And of course you can believe anything you want, who cares? I don't, But the juridical view, which comes up over and over again through different tribal mentalities, then it's made sacred, you with me, and projected and torments people of all sorts. In fact, the gooder you are, the more it's going to torment you, as we all know from studying the superego. Which you should. So the more good you are, the more you'll be tormented by the last judgment. Dakinis laugh at this. The bodhicitta, there's a great text called the 37 Steps of the Bodhicitta by Sandideva. It deconstructs all the pairs of opposites. Justice, Justice and the bodhicitta do not sit in the same seat whatsoever. So the bodhicitta is beyond all prejudice, beyond all judgment, beyond that frame of reference. I'm glad you asked that question. Hope this is making sense for you. Let me continue. Almost done. The great Yogi Dujun Rinpoche Lingpa says, if you know the minds of people who continually devote their life to virtue, anybody here? And those who harm you, anybody here? You will find that there's not much difference in the minds of both types of people. As they both suffer from aversion and compulsive attachment, both suffer from hope and fear and terror. If they can gain freedom, it is because their awareness has become free from that frame of reference. Both are wandering in samsara. There's a short. This is a great statement. This is one of the great yogis. There's a short-term difference between virtue and harmful actions. And they both can give rise to suffering and happiness. And both can prolong samsara, suffering. Isn't that an amazing statement? You guys awake? You should come to a definite conclusion. You should come to a definite conclusion, as you will confuse your virtuous actions and the gathering of merit as the gaining of liberation. The gaining of liberation is a function of experiencing and embodying your very essence as primordial awareness. Your gaining of merits will have its own reward, and your badness will have its own reward. But that is not the path of true liberation. Then you can see all sorts of things falling by the way at this moment, To each their own. This is just an opinion. Take it or leave it. Very. Embodying the beingness of your own being and going beyond your mind, whether it's a good mind, a bad mind, a strong mind, a weak mind, sane mind, or insane mind. There's also the liberation through conduct. So first was the liberation through view, okay? There's also the liberation through conduct, where view and conduct must be held in balance. Your view, everything is divinity, every experience is divinity, and your conduct, you have to balance those and hold those out. Okay? You guys follow this? Sometimes we have to think a bit. View and conduct reflect each other. They're not as separate as some would like to think. Liberation through conduct is knowing that your karma is your dharma, and that your dharma is your karma. Dharma is action meeting the situation, the karmic situation. Dharma is how you meet the unfolding of the moment. That is why, as Dorje Rinpoche says in the great prayer invoking the Lama, calling the Lama, the Buddha is nowness. How you know and act in the moment. Knowledge is action, as the second or the third Shiva Sutra says. Knowledge is action. The secret conduct of Dzogchen, the secret conduct, there's different levels. The secret conduct is how you integrate your action into the field of awareness and how action arises out of the field into the situation. So it's arising out of the field at this moment for all of us, even as we sit here. Conduct is the action required by the situation. What fits the full moment. The more you're in the real of awareness, the more you're in awareness, and the real has all three dimensions, the more that you're in the real of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, then the more you will be able to meet the situation as it is. To be in bodhicitta, the more you are in the mind, the generationally field-based mind, you may miss the moment and may miss the essence of the situation. This is scary stuff. To be in the bodhicitta is to be in full awareness. The good-heartedness of compassion is not an affect among other affects. It is the very nature of gnosis, direct perception. And the action brings forth bodhicitta. Actions bring forth bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is not simply loving kindness or sweet sentiment. It's not old yeller lassie. You understand what I mean by that? It's not just a sweet sentiment at all. It is the nature of unbound spaciousness. It is the true cosmic affection. It is the true cosmic affection that we're bringing forth in ourselves and each other right now. It is that belovedness, the belovedness of belovedness. The action of the situation brings forth the bodhicitta, the beingness of being, the mahasukha. So, it's both very freeing and very, very, very challenging, Dharma, meeting the situation as it is. So we go to our handbook for rules, juridical. And that falls into pieces that just drops away as ashes, You with me? In the power of realization of the spirit. What's in this situation? That's why in the Dzogchen text you will not see books on ethics. Do this and don't do that. And it's not because there are definitely some slobs, okay? But it's not out of sloppiness. And people can do whatever they want to do with these teachings, you with me? No question about it. But the action of what the power of bodhicitta really is, as the dharmic action. Everybody doing okay with this today? And how it's beyond all prejudice? It is beyond all prejudice. And it doesn't quite see, And so in that way, this is the effortless path, and there's no superego in this path. There's no judgment in this path. There's no crucifixion in this path. There's no courts in this path. There's no judge in this path. It's not at that level of liberation and of perfection. This is why this is not for everybody. Definitely not for everybody. Definitely not for everybody. It may not be for you either. It may not be for you. It may not be for me. But that is the essence of the bodhicitta. It is the path of bodhicitta without prejudice. No Santa Claus. No Dr. Mingle. No St. Peter. Yes.
You said that was scary.
Yeah. What makes it scary is you have to get beyond your mind. You have to get beyond your mind a bit. Now love gets everybody beyond their mind. That's why people go out of their minds when they have love. This is true. But you have to get beyond your mind. As long as you're in the mind, you will not be in awareness. That is the power of trying to as long as our subjectivity is located in our judgment, which it is for most people, it's hard to release. But even so, who cares? Because in the moment of death, in the path of the great perfection, whether you're in it or not, all you will meet is compassion. All death is the self-arising of the bodhicitta. So then you can erase this entire talk. The question is, do you want to experience it now or then? That's the only difference. Do you want to experience this now or then? But what will happen at the moment of death? Mind starts slipping away, body slips away, and what arises is the bodhicitta. The bodhicitta arises. And in the bodhicitta meets the bodhicitta. The bodhicitta within you meets the bodhicitta. No difference. And that is liberation. Liberation according of death. And most people will be liberated and they dissolve into the oneness of the divine light. Unless you specifically take a vow or desire in yourself to come back. If you take that desire that you want to come back because you like it here, and you like being in the play, and you like unfolding this experience, you think it really is fun, and you like it, so then you enter death, you leap into it with that understanding that you, as you experience the bodhicitta, you want to reincarnate. Then you take the vow of the bodhisattva. With me? And then you come back. Come back as a dog someplace with other dogs. So you come back as a god realm someplace. Or you come back as a human being someplace. You come back, as a Republican or whatever it might be. You're going to come back, to help bring forth, And you do that over and over again. But if you don't do that, because you never thought about it, then at the moment of death, there's no Dr. Mengele, there's no St. Peter, there's no prejudice. You with me? There's no notes. There's no karmic accountant. No karmic accountant. Hi, Donna. Good to see you here. Great. There's no karmic accountant. So, the mystic path and religion aren't exactly the same story. They're just not. You with me? And all the great teachers know that, even though they might have an outfit on, they have to have some kind of way to get around, but they really know that. You with me? And the greater the mystic, the more they will tell you that. You with me? No? You don't really hear the great yogis talk that way. You with me? You can come back to different realms if you want to come back to different realms. Huh? And sometimes as you go into the light, there'll be certain divine realms you go into. But even as these texts will say, these divine realms are not really like little places. They don't, they define them as this and that, but it really is the quality of consciousness itself that they're experiencing. As you go into a different realm in order to go deeper and deeper into pure luminous awareness. It's not to scrub you up. You have to really destroy the scrubbing up thing. Brush my teeth, wipe my whatever, and and then I'll make it. You with me? You have to free yourself from that viewpoint and free yourself around others on that viewpoint. You guys getting this? If you like practicing the higher practices, Or if you want to be a divine Skinnerian, holy Mengel, or, all the... I did like there's a movie, though, about life after life, but the movie, Defend. I thought it was a great movie. It's probably closer to the truth than most other things you read. So you see, because I'm a rattle for 2 more seconds, incessantly talking nowadays. Huh? Yes. Okay, and one of the things is true. In the Greek philosophy, aletheia was initially the revelation of divinity in one's own life, right? And death was also a deepening of the revelation, ongoing revealing of oneness, infinite oneness growing. Then, here come the Romans. Now, the Romans were not the Greeks. And the Romans as the imperial army came, they liked justice. Hear the phrase, Roman justice? That's a real phrase. So, as Aristotle came along before that, Aristotle started changing judgment. He became the first real Westerner, where judgment was the source of truth. Everything had to be judged, right? And came into causality. He was the source. So with Aristotle, Greek philosophy starts becoming judgment. Then here comes the Roman armies, the emperor. And judgment became justice. Roman justice. Roman justice dominated culture for a long, long time. You guys follow what I mean with this? I'm serious. Roman justice. You want to think about a generational field? You think about Roman justice. Roman justice in 325 through the Emperor Constantine creates the Holy Roman Catholic Empire, and then it becomes Catholic justice. You with me? And that dominated for long, long time the West. That's why Eastern people sometimes are very surprised at this whole story. You with me? Not that they don't have an ethics. You with me? And not that some are not unethical. but it has to do with direct perception and how the bodhicitta works for them. You follow what I mean by this? And so then you start having this starts slowly being deconstructed again. But this is deep in our society. Justice. Enough said. Yes. Liberation by view and liberation by conduct. Much closer than we'd like to think. Sometimes we'd like to think liberation view is this great big view, and meanwhile, liberation by conduct is take all the burdens and really work the burdens well. And then eventually you get liberated. They're not parallel. They're not 2 different rivers running back to the same river. That's the challenge. If you're a thinker, you will feel this challenge. You will feel, because the tendency is going back to the superego. You win your salvation. You win through goodness, or you win through bad, whatever side you're choosing. Yes, please.
Superego is like just projecting, anyway,
Yes, it projects.
it projects into the big.
If you want to use a psychological metaphor.
But anyway, I have been struggling with my superego. Last week I was really mad at it. So that kind of made it even stronger. So then I said, okay, well, I want to, like sort of get into the expansion and go through the superego. But my question is liberation the complete annihilation, or is it just moment by moment practicing merging with?
Do you ever hold your primitive pre-Oedipal superego in the awareness field?
That's what I'm saying. Is it continually
Yeah.
practicing?
And do you ever cut it through a tracho thing? Do you ever cut it like pet pot? You with me? Mm-hmm. 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 Do you ever do Vajrakalaya practices with it? Yeah, the cutting through practices, like you become the deity, the Vajrakalaya. You ever do that? Do you ever pull your superego completely into your body? Just take it deeper, deeper into your body? No. The most powerful, the secret conduct, is the integration of everything into the body of awareness. So you can cut things like Gabardorder, you can cut that, but you can also take it and pull it deep into your body. You with me? You pull it deep into your... Well, how much energy do you have? How much light do you have in you? You've got a lot. So that's where your confidence arises. Do you feel the deity in you as you? Yeah. Well, then you take... You're operating on this too psychologically. You want to take the step and you consume it in the fire of the intensity that is in your body of light. You with me? Or you can also step into, you can step into the guru, if you wish. You can do that. You can step into the guru, and you can step into your different teachers if you want to do that. You with me? Or you can step into deities. It's all stepping into the awareness, or you can bring it all into. The most powerful is integrating everything into your awareness. It's a little tricky sometimes using some of the cutting through things because we're really trying to dissociate from it. You with me? And then it just gets stronger and bigger and more powerful. So then you want to bring it into your own body. And you can bring it into your heart, you can bring it into Dantian, or you can actually bring it into your sexual center. Any one you want to, you bring it through the entire column of light. But you prepare yourself before you do that. You with me? And becoming the Dakini or becoming these things is not becoming a little outfit. You with me? Or having 7 arms. But you enter into that quality which you have in you, and you integrate everything. The secret conduct is integrating everything into the light of your own self. And everybody can do this right now. Whoever you are, you think all these streams come into everybody. You don't have to belong to Buddhism. This doesn't belong to anybody. You with me? It's in Christian traditions. The Christian tradition highly influenced the Dzogchen traditions. The early Christians definitely influenced all this because they were theologies of light. St. John's Gospel, Gospel of Thomas, all these guys. The contemplative traditions. You follow the contemplative traditions. Who's the great Cistercian monk? He's great. I'm really talking today, I'm sorry, but anyway. So there's a big conference, the big conference 2 years ago here, Mind Life Conference. The Trappist monk. Who? Not Merton. Merton's... You know the one I'm talking about. He's great. So there's a big conference going on, okay? It's sounding great. The Mindfulness Conference is on. I'm gossiping, okay? The Mindfulness Conference is on. And everybody's talking about mindfulness and the science of mindfulness and watching your mind and knowing between your thoughts and your farts and all this stuff, for years going on. And the Dalai Lama, who we love, and everybody's there. It's great. Then people start raising questions about going beyond mindfulness, okay? And Dalai Lama, of course, says with his job of maintaining an institution, says, well, no, we're going beyond psychology, which we are, thank God, and you're going now into mysticism, and this is really like, the Lama's job, okay? I was there, I heard this, okay? Well, here we go again, okay, every got to defend the old financial turf, I really, you have to defend your traditions, I guess, but the boundaries are thinning, whether we like it or not, the tribal boundaries, as the president says. So here comes this old the Trappist monk comes on. Father Thomas Keating comes on. Very dramatic, And he says, what's going on here? all these people. This is such a great moment. What are we doing? Focus on, I forget the word, but what? Focus on consciousness, focusing the cosmic. Get beyond your minds. What's going on here? I don't understand this. What are we doing?
Focus on silence within.
And silent, but go, look at this unit. Go into it all the way. And he walks away. The end. It was a very dramatic moment. You guys follow what I'm saying? So this doesn't belong to anybody. You with me? So now, let's hold awareness. Everybody's getting something out of this? Okay. A lot of people come back because they like it here. You know? Just like it here. I actually like it here. I have very bad moments, but I was once with a group when it was a thing on death, and the Swami says, "Who wants to come back?" Everybody's, "No, we don't want to come back." Holy, I'm in the wrong place. I don't want to leave. That was the ending point for me. Okay, in one of the different traditions. A big ending point. That was it. Who wants to come back? I don't want to go. I like it. And if I go, I want to come back. You know? I like it. I like the unfoldment, you know? I like... Swami Muktananda, before he was old, a reporter came up and says, well, he says, can you tell me what do you want now? You seem to have everything. You're wealthy, and people love you and adore you, and you realize, what do you want? What's on the agenda? He says, I wish I was young again, like you. There's a young reporter. He says, it's so much fun doing sadhana. I want to come back and start all over again, you know? That's great. So let's hold awareness with each other. And people can come back in terms of finding loved ones. We know that, right? People come back finding loved ones. No question about that. People can come back to revenge issues. There's a lot of reasons we can come back, huh? If you want to. So hold awareness. You like having karma? You glad you're here? That every incident in my life and in your life has been method for you and me to embody luminosity. You don't have to even believe it or hear it. People experience luminosity all the time without ever reading one book or belonging to any group, you know? Yes, sir?
I just want to comment on your talk about us making the decision about whether we come back or not. Because the way I had always internalized it, someone else can make that decision for me. And it's very different when you say it that way. You're choosing.
The very focus of awareness is to have agency in this world. Not effort, but agency. Mastery is mastery of the awareness field. Mastery is. We'll focus with each other.
Institutions that sold tickets to the next.
They sell tickets or
Coupons.
that was Martin Luther, one of the great heroes. Martin Luther, one of the great heroes of our time, went against the selling. Are you Lutheran? Of course. One of the great heroes went exactly against that, and he went exactly against.
That's what we were taught at school.
But to deconstruct that view, so we'll hold awareness again. And it's not that being good is not good. Virtue is a source of the chi. But it can really be, it's not necessarily liberation. We've all seen that for people. So let's hold our awareness now. Let's intensify the experience. And of course, great Padmasambhava says this: I am as infinite as the sky, and I do every detail. He's talking again to holding both at the same time. I'm as infinite as the sky, my view, and yet I do the details. He meets the immediately of his situation. So he has to go wipe out the cannibals in this land. He says goodbye to Yeshitogo, and he goes to his next karmic moment. Mm-hmm. So we're going to extend to everybody on the internet right now, because a number of people are not feeling that well. We're going to extend to all the people on the internet. And we understand, of course, that awareness is the healing dimension. We'll extend to everyone. We're all practicing the bodhicitta. And you want to think of bodhicitta as big, like space. The bodhicitta is space. It is not an affect. You want to feel that opening of that great space, of the great compassion, which is, it's actually a passion, if you will. A pure love. And we'll feel it rising. We'll find it. We'll lean into it. We'll intensify it. We'll extend it to everyone on the internet. The light, meeting the light. And all these are tautology, different ways of saying the same thing. The great compassion. We dissolve all thoughts of Skinnerian divinity. We dissolve all those thoughts. We extend the great compassion to everyone. Because we can. We pull judgment into our bodies, into the heart essence. We pull judgment into the inner heart essence. We want to feel our connection to the different traditions, different teachers, and archetypes. Because that is our oneness, right? Beingness of being. We're going to invoke the bodhicitta again. We want our mind dissolved into the bodhicitta. We want the superego dissolved into the bodhicitta. The secret conduct is bringing everything into the innermost awareness. You need a little bit of practice before you do that. But 5, 6, 7 years is a lot. 10. So we all have that capacity. Then we'll be able to actually read the situation. What's scary is sometimes we think we're reading the situation, but actually our knowingness is not reading the situation. It's a generational field event. Let's invoke the bodhicitta again. And then we're going to just feel our karma come through that. We're going to feel the life of our karma. Very quickly, just feel it passing through. And we'll hold it. Just event after event after event after event. After event. If a sentiment arises, we'll dissolve that, other than bodhicitta, other than love. So every sentiment is method, right? We bring it into the body. We just bring that sentiment. We're not getting rid of them by getting them outside ourselves. We're integrating everything. That is the secret conduct. Let's intensify the bodhicitta again. Let's lean into it more. If you don't feel it in yourself, feel it in the person next to you. If you don't feel it in yourself, it could be one of those days, then you feel it in the person next to you. If you can feel it in the person next to you, you can feel it in yourself. It's really useful to know that your juridical approach is a political system. It's useful to actually have a juridical system in this world. It simply has nothing to do with the liberation of being a human being. It's, as the yogi says, Durjam Lingpa, don't confuse the two. Juridical systems are useful, right? If not, then everybody definitely has to have a gun. Juridical systems are useful, but do not confuse them with the path of liberation. That's what he was saying in that text. Got it? Do not confuse it with the path of your liberation, which is number one. So you dissolve the life of divinity and the juridical system. It's not on the same order whatsoever.
Is it necessary to develop superego in this culture?
You know, what is necessary is developing gnosis as early as possible. When you have a person who has gnosis, you will have good company. And so in this way, okay, the superego is a substitution for direct perception. Or the superego is a substitution on the order of secondary narcissism when there's gaps in primary narcissism. You follow me? Okay. Yeah. The superego is a formation when there's gaps in primary narcissism, okay? And that will all have, the pre-Oedipal superego is definitely in all of us, okay? Just how it works. But more or less depending on certain cultures, okay? And then comes the Oedipal superego, okay? But if a person's fortunate, and I think there are more people coming like that into this world, fortunate, and there's more gnosis and more direct perception, then the function of the superego, which prevents havoc and all sorts of things, is carried out of primary narcissism, which is direct perception. Everybody here has primary narcissism. If you did not have some development of primary narcissism, you would not be in this room whatsoever. This would be nothing but boring, stupid shit. But out of primary narcissism you have, then you can negotiate. Follow what I mean by that? So here we are. So again, we access the bodhicitta, and we're really freeing ourselves from the juridical view. Tribal views. Tribal views are very juridical. Big tribes, little tribes. And dissolve the juridical point of view at the level of perception. How we're all doing with the bodhicitta. Let's just pass around, and we want to just describe what we're experiencing, if we don't mind, okay? Here we go.
When I sit with that experience of bringing in the bodhicitta and the light and pulling these things, aspects of self, the judgment and the reactionary, I have a sense of complete spaciousness. It doesn't last long, but that's that sense where the light and the space are not different.
Perfecto. I was thinking as we came into the geometry, I am so fine with this as long as I don't think. So there's this. So I guess I'm sitting with an experience of the difference between developing my discrimination, which I guess I have the idea that's in my thinking, and dropping into the field. There's two discriminations. Yeah. One is discrimination of mind, the other is discrimination of awareness. And discrimination of awareness is simply my own awareness of awareness right now. To use that language.
And when one is in discrimination of awareness, the discrimination is emergent.
It's emergent discrimination.
And that's the difference. It is not effort.
Really
That's the difference. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
emergent discrimination, and you don't quite have to exactly. It is
It's not that
emergent.
work, right?
It is emergent. This is a co-emergent process.
Yeah,
Completely.
yeah,
And it's emergent discrimination.
yeah, yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see some of the yogis, that's what they have. That's what they write in and suddenly as it emerges. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for saying that. The next person.
I have a feeling of completeness and lately what you're talking about today is very, very helpful, and it's fitting with what my experience has been lately, where there's almost an excitement about being embodied and being in this life at this time, and it's when I'm sitting with clients, it's very clear how helpful that is in this time when there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of worry about what's going on, and so to have that just how great it is to be here is I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you so much.
Well, my experience is kind of like of being unfurled. It feels very expansive and at the same time, connected. And I'm very much with similar to what Jan, you were saying, like how I'm discovering that this is more accessible when I'm in places where others aren't there. So instead of, in this sort of expansive unfurling, rather than just kind of then losing myself to that, I'm finding that this can be more of a resource to be present. Yeah, that doesn't mean I don't benefit greatly from this kind of experience, because I have this sense that being with everyone here is a way of, stoking that fire, and I, still need that, or find that very useful.
I guess what's helpful to me is like whether it be ego or thoughts or kind of a hard edge, is just to kind of sense it like as it directly arises out of space, and I was thinking it's also kind of helpful in that it immediately brings me like experience the space of the Dharmakaya, and then it just the hard edge is soft and fluid, and in there somewhere is the energy and light, and it's just easier.
Beautifully describe that method. And as you describe that method, Lama Lena is going to be coming here on May 15th, 16th, and that's the method she'll be describing. And it's been the natural unfolding of the awareness that's happened by Padmasambhava. It should be great. Your program will be Saturday and half day Sunday. But that watching the edges arising out of space is that. Thank you so much.
It's funny what Donna said about thinking, because I've been having the experience of, I wouldn't call it thinking exactly, I would say thoughts popping up in the field that are all around judgment and the superego. And what's been coming up for me lately is judgment and the superego, both judging self and others, and how much it takes me out of my body. And how if I'm not in my body, I can't reach the state of awareness and access to the field and the Dharmakaya. It becomes a mental exercise. So it's amazing how much of this I just put together in the last 5 minutes. thanks to everybody here. It's been really wonderful kind of puzzling this out, but not so much in my mind in a thought process, because with the thought process I go on the hamster wheel and I never get there. But coming at it from this state makes it possible to access. It's like there's a greater mind that I can pull the awareness down from, and then it becomes an oh, of course kind of moment. So it's beautiful for me when I heard your talk to connect the judgment and the superego as a construct with the lack or the hole in the primary narcissism. You know, it brings the psychological in, but it is not of psychology. Right? Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to have to listen to this over again to know what I said, because I'm not quite... No.
Everybody talks. That's why this is very, the articulation of experience is the same teachings coming through out of experience. Yeah. Cool.
And nobody owns them. That's the great part. It's not like I'm wondering, like, am I, treading on someone's toes? Am I, copying their theory? It's just, it's all there anyway, but to be able, it's like when I can be embodied and have those thoughts and be in the field all at the same time, I'm not worried about that, because, it's all pulling through something that's there anyway, and all we're doing is translating it and communicating it. But the paradox is, when we translate and communicate it, it deepens the field and deepens the state.
So,
right?
Our translations deepen the experience for ourselves and others. Thank you so much.
Well, articulation is great. This is just one of those days where I just feel like I'm in this luscious golden space. And who wants to talk? And it's just so wonderful to be back here. I feel like there's been so few times in the last bit of time. And it feels like my body has expanded and expanded and expanded and expanded. And at the same time, there's been like this kind of karmic images from way back just sort of passing through, and they would sort of melt. Like first they'd be a little bit solid, some of them, and like a little darker, a little more solid, and then they just sort of melt. And I can feel my eyes like going off on this horizon. It's very, very luscious.
That's fantastic. That is liberation. Thank you so much.
I've always kind of loved it when you would talk about the dakinis laughing. There was a certain kind of a sneer in there, and I think this was it. It was the laugh of thinking that you can be bad and you can still be in the field. You don't have to be good to be in the field. That's very relieving. And so I think that's what I heard in that Dakini's laughing. And I've been using the mantra that you talk about with the and focusing on the bodhicitta. It's always been kind of a strange thing to me. But my experience of it is I guess it comes out of the Celtic notion of what it's the beauty. And it isn't the beauty of the object, it's the experience of the beauty, and being able to experience that in my body and in my awareness, and it's kind of the lushness and this real deep, pure attraction, and it when I'd go kind of into spaciousness, it'd be kind of freeing, but it'd be kind of empty and dull. But this brings in just the absolute lushness of the field, It's just it's almost too much for me to swallow that is real.
Pride is a really useful. We all practice false humility. Comes from most everyone here has the issue of false humility. This tends to be in who's the great narcissistic guy who writes about it? Kohut. We tend to be minimizers in this group, okay, and not maximizers. Okay, right? And so there's a Vajra pride where you take it and you swallow it as your own, which is really very useful. And a kind of active pride, the Vajra pride, and you make it your own completely. Thank you for calling. Yes. Have you back. Welcome back. See you.
Thank you. It's good to be back. And just to let you know, I was on every week for the past 6 months, and so it's awesome to feel you guys in the field remotely. It's just an awesome experience to experience it, and I was typing up notes, so it's doing, which it did something to my mind as I did that, and so it was taking it in a different way. So thank you all for sharing yourselves in that way. And thank you, Karen, for talking about the superego, and Rudy for inviting us to bring in the superego and the karma. I could feel this whoosh of density enter into my being, and as it came into my heart center, I could feel it. I'm going to use the word like dissolving. So as it dissolved, it felt like all the other pathways within my body would open up, and then I could feel the energy moving down my legs and up in my face, and opening. And also during the talk, I could feel my brain. I call it popping, but it's like my brain pops, like it's opening and it's expanding. Usually in the frontal area, I just feel it opening.
For me today, it's been a lot of physical sensations in the body, kind of along with what you're saying. And Rudy, I'm glad you said earlier the surging, because I felt this surge all morning long coming up into my head, and particularly in the left side of my head. It's been throbbing and painful, and I've felt this kind of a cool slice in the middle, kind of on the crown of my head. And so this side of my body seems to be expanding, and just this pressure is growing and growing and growing, and I'm kind of struggling with that. Kind of like, I don't like this, so I'm not going to be here, and I'm just going to come out of it. But it doesn't seem to want to leave me either. So then I'm just stuck with you guys, and I'm here with you. It's been a very physical day today. And that's where I'm at.
That is the Kundalini. The Kundalini is the expansion of awareness, expanding in your body, and actually creating the Vas body. It's actually creating that body. So, it's really weird, but that is the Kundalini coming through you, expanding through you, resonating through you, and sometimes it's a little torturous. Sometimes it really is. When you do want to, you all want to dissociate later. You just stay right in it. And you feel people around you, and that'll help you remain in it. It helps all of us remain in it. But at the same time, it increases it. So it's a tricky.
I like what you were saying about cause and effect in the simplistic way, and how I think that's a really ingrained idea. And to be able to kind of release that, just hearing it and release it, it's liberating, for one thing. And this other idea, the way that you're talking about karma is, it just in a weird sort of way feels rebellious, not in a good or bad way, just beyond beyond the statement you just made about us being minimizers. And it's just very liberating to get beyond all that, and it just feels real.
There's the Flower Ornament Sutra. It's a great big sutra that really deals with this very explicitly. Flower Ornament Sutra.
I feel that feeling of dropping into presence, and that as I can do that, that the superego piece, which is a very well practiced part of me, really does drop away, and this feeling of, well, it's sort of a feeling of relief, but not exactly. I mean, it's just it's that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore, the judgmental piece. Yeah. I mean, I can go into it, but I don't want to go into it, and I don't feel a need to go into it right now. So, it's an ongoing process. Exactly. Exactly.
Today is a highly embodied day. I don't recognize my body at all. It's just like swirling, three-dimensional pieces that are just going all over the place. I love the concealment and revealing aspect, that it isn't just an kind of opens and stays open. It has this rhythm to it. And with regard to the non-judgmental aspect, I think about conversations I've had with Elizabeth Ebau, and just hanging out with her at Amity's, and just that, when I'm in the presence of someone who isn't as judgmental as I still am and can be, it's a reflection. I notice it in my own mind. It's like a mirror and the counterpoint of that. And so a lovely model there. Where are we going?
Yeah, I'm just so overwhelmed with the whole morning today, and I don't quite know what to articulate to add to everything. But I think what I keep coming back to is the question that Karen asked, and how liberating that was to all of a sudden really feel the light and the power in me than any fear that I could ever have. And not in an egotistical way, but in a very broad way, and a very way for everyone. Kind of like, well, why is anyone afraid if this is all in us? And you hear that so many times about our biggest fear is we don't know how great we are. But I really felt that today for all of us, not just me. It was just very touching.
Rudy, in the beginning, you mentioned words and language, and what I've been experiencing is that I'm spelling words, and it just feels like there's a certain rhythm to it that's wonderful, and it's continuous, and it grows and builds, and I feel connected to everything. So that's my experience.
I'm really finding this work with the bodhicitta very profoundly helpful. I feel like I've, kind of carried a long legacy of lack, and it feels like the bodhicitta is just so abundant, and it comes forth from you. It is there. It's from others. It's just really like totally breaking down that concept. And it's been very powerful.
Sitting here, I felt, like other people said, a great deal of light and spaciousness. And sometimes I would feel like I was floating back into a dream. And I couldn't quite remember the dream, but it was like going almost into another dimension, because it wasn't a dream it was a non-conceptual dream, like a branch or something, yeah. And it's just interesting, because it's a continual, something that comes up continually when I'm doing meditations.
You know, I have that capacity. I think you should read Durjin Lingpa's book.
Which one?
The Refining of Perception. Because it is a book on the different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And Buddhahood without meditation, or meditation without Buddha, no, Buddhahood without meditation. I think you might find that book as a support for your capacity to do what you can do. Is that okay?
Buddhahood without meditation.
Buddha without
Mm-hmm.
meditation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your talking about the bodhicitta, and in many ways it's kind of brought home to me a lot of the essence of Buddhism, which I kind of hadn't grasped before, because I always linked it with this judgmental doing the right thing. And it kind of slowly I'm grasping it from a different perspective. And I also appreciate you talking about us as places and making the distinction with the Dakinis, that they are not really places in the same way. Yeah. And I had some kind of lack of clarity there. Yeah, thank you.
I also feel today as a very experiential in my body. I feel very embodied, and I feel a tremendous softening. My body feels softer. The experiences feel softer. And what we talked about, there's just a tremendous softening. There's a gentleness and a sweetness and a centeredness about it.
Thank you so much.
I don't know. How much time do we have? Okay. Okay, well, bodhicitta, I'd love to tell a story, but anyway, it's like a liquid tear. A tear is liquid, but it's like the tear holds all of the beauty of the bodhicitta. It's sadness, it's love, it's fullness and depth and compassion. Articulating about karma the way we have been here it's just nourishing me week after week. And there's a lot of turbulence today, I feel, in my body, releasing anything I have in the way of really digesting this for myself. And it affirms my shift in my life from a desperation of things needing to be a certain way into the embracing of whatever is unfolding for me, and even seeing the alchemy and the grace in that. When it's providing for me exactly what I need. And that is a mystery. It's not ever, I can't ever figure it out. And the other thing that I'm with is true creativity is having the guts to stay in the emergent with no plan. Because when I work with people now, if I don't have the guts to do that, nothing much happens. But if I have the guts to say, I don't know what the hell is going to happen next, then huge things can happen for everybody. So.
Perfecto, Mundo. Thank you, guys. See you all next week. Hasta la vista. Yep.
Amma will be coming in July, and I'm inviting each one of you to consider putting an ad in her program guide. You put an ad in to advertise your business, and all the money goes to her programs and charities. I've put in ads before, and it's really a wonderful way to bring light to yourself. I don't know the dates, actually, sorry. But you can look on amadc.org. Also, there's a retreat the last Saturday and Sunday of March, and one of her swamis, Damrita Swami, will be coming and doing a retreat. You can go to all of it or just part of it.